You could be anywhere doing anything, but you're hanging out with us. And we appreciate that. So wherever you're listening and however you're listening, we appreciate you guys for listening. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of the Gameplan podcast. Alex Goodwin is my name. You can follow me on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. Again, that's on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. That's T as in tacos, S as in sangria, M as in margaritas. Kennedy Miller.
Yes, sir.
Man, where can the folks find you on Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at _Kennedy Miller _. Again, that's _ Kennedy Miller _. That's Kennedy with a Y and not an I.
All right. All right. And another big thank you for the folks who are streaming with us live on YouTube. Put your questions and your comments in the chat. You never know. We might just read them out here live on the show. And Kennedy, I said S as in sangria. You know what I should have said? S as in?
The Phoenix Suns.
No, I should have said S as in Shreveport, because that's where they need to go on their summer vacation. I know Charles Barkley said send the Pelicans to Galveston. I'll do him one better. Send the Phoenix Suns. They don't deserve to go. They don't even deserve to see the beach, the actual water. They deserve to go riverboat gambling. So send them to Shreveport, Lake Charles, Opelousas, Baton Rouge. Send them Bossier City. Send them there. Okay, because they don't even deserve to go to Galveston and go to Kemah Boardwalk. And can we just say, Ken, as native Houstonians, we don't really get in the water in Galveston either. Like, if you from Texas, Galveston is not like, oh my God, Galveston. We're like, no, that's a two Americas type of situation.
Yeah, we don't mess with that water either. Like, nah, that's a big no-no.
Big no. But like I said, man, send the Suns to Shreveport or Lake Charles, one of them. But they don't deserve to go nowhere nice either, Ken. And you thought Phoenix is going to find a way to win this series, Ken.
I did. I was wrong.
Boy, the Ant-Man got them out the paint so quick, bro.
Yeah, no, he is ascending to that superstar status. Ja got to be kicking himself right now. Because
Ja's shooting himself.
Ja is shooting himself right now because he is taking over the league. Like, he's becoming the face of the league right before our very eyes. Like, face of the league is not always the best player in the league, right? Like, as of right now, LeBron and Steph still kind of carry that mantle. I don't think either of them are the best player in the league. Jokic, as good as he was probably the best player in the league, can't hold it, right? He doesn't have the personality. He doesn't have the charm. He doesn't have the charisma. Same thing with kind of Embiid. You know, a lot of people don't really like the way that he plays. Giannis, it just doesn't really flow the same. But that kid is going to be the next. He's going to be the next one. And this series was his coming out party.
Yeah. I think in the wildest thing about Anthony Edwards is this, and like the Minnesota Timberwolves, as I've been thinking about it, is for all these years, they tried to put a bunch of different people around Karl Anthony Towns to be the number 2, and it didn't work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like D'Angelo Russell, Andrew Wiggins, Jimmy Butler, and then Jimmy Butler decided, I got to get up out of here. These dudes ain't serious about this. And what I think where they messed up in realizing is they thought Karl Anthony Towns could be the number 1. Anthony Edwards showed up and showed us, oh, no. They ain't here because of Karl. They here because Anthony Edwards is the man. Like, This is his team now.
Oh, no doubt.
This is one of them situations like, you ever heard people talk about when a child fought their daddy? And why dad said why he can't lose this fight? Because if he lose the fight to his son, this boy's house now. Anthony Edwards then took over the house. That's basically what this is. Right? Like, when in doubt in years past in other situations where it was like, all right, well, we need a bucket. Who can we go to? They didn't have a guy that can go get it for them. Now, when they need to go get a bucket against Phoenix, Ant-Man, hit the ball. Go get it. And he wants it. He wants it, and he's going to be in there talking trash and hot cash to these dudes. Like, I love it. He is unapologetically himself. Like, we got to figure out a way to get Anthony Edwards. You know how folks are talking about Keon Coleman the last couple
Oh,
of
yeah, for sure.
like Anthony Edwards, Keon Coleman, Marshawn Lynch. Can we get them all to do a podcast? Can we do that?
Dude, he's got the charm, bro. Like he's got the game. Like, you know, you go down and dunk and block Devin Booker's shot, and then you come down and dunk KD, which looks like something that we seen Michael Jordan. Like, we ain't seen somebody do that since like Mike. And like to turn to the side in the air with it too, and like kind of stay in the air a little bit. And man, he earned my respect. I already liked him a lot, but this is his chance to really ascend. And now he gets a chance to play against the defending champions, which I'm very excited about that series.
So moving to the Suns for a quick second.
Yes.
I think at the beginning of the season, I think when they first made the trade for Bradley Beal, Ken, I texted you and I was like, why did it feel like everybody involved just got worse? Like, I've never seen a trade between like the Bradley Beal, Chris Paul trade and then the Chris Paul, Jordan Poole trade. Well, all three teams were worse off than when they started, but especially Phoenix, because for me, I felt like Phoenix didn't need Bradley Beal, right?
They didn't need him.
Even going back before that, I don't think they needed Kevin Durant. Like, that core that they had before that with Booker and Bridges and Cam Johnson, DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul at the point guard running the controls. They had the group. They went to the finals with that group. They didn't need a drastic overhaul. They just, I felt like, needed to probably get more out of DeAndre Ayton and or get a new coach. But they ended up now with three dudes who do the exact same thing at varying levels of success. And in terms of success, I mean in terms of outcome and helping your team win basketball games. All three of them dudes, Booker, Beal, and Durant, get a bucket. And that's really it. They get buckets. They needed wing depth, guys who can defend, guys who can like get them the ball, a good point guard. Like this kid, we R&B dudes, we always talk about it. You can't have a group with Cisco, Wanye, and KC. You need deep voice dude from Boys to Men who gonna get on the interlude and humiliate himself. You need somebody who's willing to just be the bottom of the record. Like, we don't never hear this dude sing. We just hear him in the background. But you got three lead singers and no one else. And now, this is the second time. It's wild to think about. This is the second time in 3 years Kevin Durant has gotten swept in the first round. Second time in 3 years. And it's not like he's not playing well. Like, his numbers look as good as they always have. But it's obvious, kind of the same thing with LeBron, is the numbers look like they always have, but the outcome and their impact on winning isn't the same, right? Like, if you told me 5-6 years ago, Kevin Durant puts up 28, 6 and 4 and shoots 37-38% from the three-point line, you told me his team got swept, I think you're crazy. But I also think that goes to show how deep the league actually is at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, they had a couple of drastic holes that never were addressed. I mean, they needed a point guard. And I guess, and they came out today, I think the owner came out today and said they kind of like doubled down on it. Like, they didn't want to have the ball out of their hands. But I think they needed somebody to kind of direct traffic and get those guys to their spots on the floor where they wanted to be. Also, they had a head coach who's a defensive-minded head coach. And they didn't have any defenders. Like, I mean, they brought in, like, Royce O'Neal, but, like, at the beginning of the year, like, it was said, like, he wanted a defensive-minded center, and DeAndre Ayton didn't fit that mold. Well, I mean, Nurkic ain't that much better at that side of the ball. So, like, if you were to tell me that Mike D'Antoni had this team, I would say, oh, they'll probably be pretty good. Or they'll probably be a lot better. But that's like, you got a defensive-minded coach with, like you said, three guys who all need the ball in their hands who are trying to score. And none of them have a reputation for being great defenders. And neither does their big man. And so when you run up against a team like Minnesota, who is top 3 in the league in defense and has a budding superstar, then I didn't think they were going to get swept. And I did predict them to win. But it was incredible. It was incredible to watch how tough Minnesota made it on them to score down the stretch of games.
And I will say now, because I remember beginning of the season, we did a show, and I said nobody thinks Minnesota's going to be for real by the end of this.
Mm-hmm.
I was wrong. I've got to eat a whole lot of crow, right? Because they look legit.
Yeah,
like
sure.
A legitimate team that I think can give Denver some problems, right? Now, do I think they'll be able to beat Denver right now? I'm not ready to say that. And just on the fact of the other team has Jokic and you don't, right? Like, we sometimes I think we start going into the analytics and win shares per 48, and this team won the season series and they led for 165 of the 240 minutes. We get into all that. Yeah, that's fine. But do you have Jokic though? Right? Like, do you have anybody that can do something with him? And Carl can't do nothing with Jokic. Gobert gonna have to be the dude. Who's going to be able to have to get this done? It's going to have to be on Rudy Gobert to, at some level, defend Nikola Jokic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's really like Jokic is going to do his thing. I will say if the Nuggets shoot the ball, or not even just shoot the ball, but if they play the way that they played against the Lakers, Minnesota got a chance. And if Jamal Murray's calf is messed up and KCP's ankle is messed up, Minnesota has a chance. Now, I'm with you. I think overall championship experience is going to prevail, and Denver just has so many weapons. But if there is a team right now that can really give them a challenge with the personnel that they got, it would be Minnesota. Because we talked about, I didn't mean to interrupt, but we talked about, how the Lakers had a mismatch advantage, usually with Hachimura being the third biggest guy on the floor. Well, Minnesota provides that with Jaden McDaniels, but he's their best perimeter defender. Yeah. So he's 6'10", and I'm interested to see, are they going to put him on Michael Porter? Are they going to put him on Jamal Murray? Is he going to switch back and forth? I would imagine Mike Conley would be on KCP. Because he's going to be coming off screens. But McDaniels, as that Swiss Army knife defender, gave Kevin Durant a lot of problems. He's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. And then you got the backside, like we talked about, with Gordon and Jokic provide such a physical problem for most teams. You got Cat and Gobert. And I'll be interested to see how that is, because I remember last year for some stretches they would put Cat on Jokic and have Gobert on Gordon, just so, because Gordon's not that much of a shooter. Gobert can stay around the rim. He won't have to get pulled out to the three-point line. So I'll be interested to see what adjustments they'll make this year. But I think it's going to be a great series.
Yeah, man. And I think the thing that really helps Denver at this point, man, is that continuity that they have, right? I think it kind of goes back to talking about like Phoenix and other teams when they try to just like, I want to say microwave this thing, right? But Denver has a situation where like this is an organic type of situation where these dudes have been playing together for a very, very long time. They seem so comfortable together.
No doubt.
Like where they know where each other's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And they're confident in each other. And that was the thing about that Lakers series that just like really stuck out to me, was that there was not a second where they seemed nervous or out of sorts, or like, sometimes when a team is down 12, 15 points, you see people arguing on the sidelines and arguing in the huddle and different things. You saw none of it. They just seemed like, okay, we're all right. We're good. We're going to make our run at some point. We're going to get there. And that's what they did night in, night out, right? And I'm just like, boy, seeing Jamal Murray make that shot on Tuesday night to send the Lakers home, it felt like deja vu. Because at the end of that game, it was like, he's going to make this, isn't he? Like, I don't know how you felt watching it, Ken, but I was like, this is going in. Like, I don't know how he's going to get there, but this ball is going through the net. And how demoralizing must it feel for the LA Lakers? to lead for like, what did they lead for? 170 of the 240 minutes of that series.
Mm-hmm.
And they only won one game. Like LeBron and AD each gave, like Anthony Davis gave you 28 points and 15 rebounds a night.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron was what, 28, 8, and 7?
Mm-hmm.
And you only were able to win one game. Yo, that has to hurt.
And lost by a combined 11 points through those 4 games that they lost. They lost by a combined 11 points. You know, it's just like talking. Basically, I'm agreeing with what you're saying. The continuity helped them, especially down the stretch of those games, right? Which is partly why they're never worried, because at the end of the game, there's no question on where the ball is going. It's going to be in the hands of Jokic, and it's going to be in the hands of Murray. And it's going to be a 2-man game, and we're just going to pick you apart that way. The Lakers did not have that continuity. They had it with LeBron and AD, but it was just so many different things with the roster. Like, number one, they should not have been in that situation in the first place. They shouldn't have been the 7th seed, because they win the in-season tournament at 16-9. They're like 16-9 at that point. At that point, Darvin Ham decides to bench D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves at one point at the same time.
Yep.
And we go on a terrible losing streak, go under 500 after starting 16-9. Somehow he figures out his mistakes around All-Star break. Go back from All-Star break, we have the 3rd best record in the league, and we should have won 50 games. But we should have been like a 4th or 5th seed, and maybe you play Denver in the 2nd round or the conference finals, and then you have those guys like Christian Wood and Jared Vanderbilt that were out. They might be available to play now. And I'm not saying that those guys would have helped them win the series, because Denver is just that good. But it was so many errors that they made along the way, like that could have been prevented, right? And that could have helped being up for so many minutes of this series, but never fully closing the deal. What else? It was another point. Darvin Ham, I don't understand. You watched the game. We're up 69-60 in Denver, and I don't know. After they hit 2 threes, why not call a timeout? You've been watching the Spurs all your life. How quickly do you see Greg Popovich call a timeout? Like
Pop gets up quick, and he's like, "Come here."
Yeah, it's no momentum. It's no momentum that's going to be taking over this game. The score is 69-60. He didn't call a timeout till it was 74-71 when we're losing. Like, I don't get it. Like, that was really the difference. And this is my last point. What I hope is that they don't overreact and think that the roster was not good enough. There are changes that need to be made, right? They probably need to get another backup center. Probably could, replace Shamar Moore, get him out of here. Okay.
Wait, is he the new oh my God,
he's the new kid. Miami Heat guards cannot play anywhere else. Miami Heat guards cannot play anywhere else. Okay. And we need to fire Darvin Ham. Like, that is the adjustment. They do not need to overreact. The roster was not that bad. The roster competed. We were just outcoached. We were outcoached by a very good coach.
Now, I will ask this question: like, how can Darvin Ham fix the fact that D'Angelo Russell shows up every 5th night, right? Like, at one hand, D'Angelo Russell shoots 31% from the 3-point line, right? Last year, he was unplayable in this series. He was able to stay out there on the floor. Other than game 2,
he played better this series, except for the 0 points.
Right, he played better, but you need a 3rd scorer, right? Austin Reeves, he had a great postseason last year, but I think so much of Austin Reeves and the hype that he was able to get was that it was kind of one of those under promise, over deliver type things. You know how when we were in college, you used to get a refund check, and you weren't expecting this money. You know what I'm saying? You're thinking about your account, man, I got 500 in here, X, Y, and Z. All right, I can make this work. And then all of a sudden you get an infusion of 2,000. You're like, oh, 2,000, man, I'm rich, right? You weren't counting on that money, right? That's like money you find in the seat cushion, But now you expecting that when you expecting that money to be there, when it's supposed to be your check, and Austin Reeves was supposed to be their third best player, right? Their third scorer, right?
Yeah, third. Yeah, him and D'Lo.
Right. Once that's the expectation, right? We expect this from you night in, night out, right? You can't still be acting like a refund check. You know what I mean? I think that's part of it. I do think Darvin Ham, there were some things he did that I didn't understand, specifically game 5. He challenged that Jokic call where I think they called it a foul on Anthony Davis. Yes. And he challenged it and he lost his last timeout.
Now I didn't understand that the rule was you still lose the timeout. Like I was all for challenging it. And I think even like Reggie Miller and the commentators were confused because they were like, should he challenge it? Because if he loses it, they'll lose the timeout. Well, he won the challenge.
And still lost the timeout. Right.
The timeout. And so it's like, I don't understand that.
That's fair. And that was the thing I was wondering. I was like, wait, is one foul? Because how many fouls did Anthony Davis have at that point?
I don't think it was more so about the fouls. It was just, it's a neck and neck game. And people like, this is the playoffs. So those like 120 to 124 scores are gone away. I want to say it was like 91 to 91. Yeah. So this is a grinded out fest. And like both teams are kind of struggling at that point. And if that's a foul and you put them on the line, like, maybe those 2 points end up hurting us. So I was cool with it, but I thought that we were going to get the timeout. I thought we were going to keep the timeout.
That's fair. That's fair. Like, now, what do they do with the Darvin Ham? I'm not sure, right? I tend to be a guy who thinks, like, all right, what are you over a long period of time? I feel like last season, he did a really good job, right? When they blew the roster up at the deadline, he figured it out, and they did really well, made it to the conference finals. Some people can say it was matchups or whatever. They got like he got it there. You know what I mean? He got it there. And I was like, wow, this dude can do something, right? This year, once there are expectations, he wasn't able to rise to the occasion, so to speak, right? I would be like, all right, so we've had this one year that turned out really well. You did a really good job coaching. And this other year where your coaching seriously should be questioned, which is what? You know what I mean? Which is it? You know what I mean? And for LeBron, this would be in LA coach number 4 in 7 years. You know what I mean? And how much does a coaching change? Does that make you better than Denver? Does that make you better than Minnesota next year? Does that make you better than Oklahoma City next year? Is that going to make you better than Dallas next year? Right? How, like, you know what I mean? Like, how much better does that change make you, especially when we're talking about LeBron James at the age of 40, and we've been talking about at this point for a year or so. At some point, man, the rent gonna come due on his body, man. Like, he's still playing phenomenal, still looks phenomenal, the whole deal. But at some point, it's the car is going to end up on the side of the road.
And that's the thing, like, Denver was a better team. I don't think with this roster, with the coach, it was much that you were going to do, much that you were going to be able to do to beat them. But I feel like it could have been more of a competitive series. But it feels like a wasted season because LeBron and AD played 70-plus games.
Yes. Austin
Reeves played 82 games after playing Team USA this summer. You know who's playing Team USA this summer? LeBron.
Oh, man.
So can you expect them to play 70-plus games next year? Absolutely not. And the thing is, the management needs to still be held accountable for not wanting to hire Ty Lue just because he coached LeBron in Cleveland. Like, that's one of the worst things I've ever heard in my life. They wouldn't offer Ty Lue that 4-year deal because, he just coached LeBron in Cleveland. Well, look how that's working out for you. And I was going to say that the point that you made, this will be the 4th coach in 7 years. All of those coaches were not at fault. Luke Walton, I think he deserved to be fired. I don't think Frank Vogel deserved to be fired. I think that they used him as a scapegoat for the Russell Westbrook problem. And he was
LeBron created.
the problem that LeBron created, and he was the first person to get the brunt of that, and so they fired him. I don't think he deserved to be fired. I don't think Frank Vogel's a bad coach. I understood the hire with Darvin Ham. He's paid his dues. He's won a championship as an assistant. He's a former player. He deserved it, right? But it's been too many times throughout the year, and we've talked about it throughout the year. Like, it was a record of Taurean Prince playing over 25 minutes. Like, we only won like 5 or 6 games, like out of 25. Like, he kept playing them. Like, he just was not playing his best players. And like, that article came out and it just killed him. Right after the Denver series, like right after we lost, that article
came out on The Athletic.
Oh my gosh. And he lost the locker room. Like, it's one thing, like, you want to see what a coach can do, but when you lose a team, you lost the team.
Yeah.
And not playing his third and fourth best players lost the team. Because like, it was a point in the article where it says like, when LeBron and they came back against the Clippers, and he was like, basically they felt like they could coach their own team. They didn't need him anymore.
All right, folks, we apologize for the technical difficulties. The lighting decided to hold me back just a couple of minutes ago. Ken, can you hear me? Can you see me?
I can hear you and I can see you.
See, you know what I think that was, Ken? I think the Beehive just cut us off. That's what I think just happened. They heard me talking down about Galveston. They couldn't do nothing about Charles Barkley, but they could do something to me. So they said, all right, boom, right? They heard me, Ken. They heard me. But I will say, Ken, as you were talking about your homie Darvin Ham in that story that came out in The Athletic, it felt like they lost that game at like 10:45, and that story was up at like 11:15.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that reminded me of like when Ed Ogeron got fired at LSU, and he got fired. It was like, wait, he got fired at 11 a.m. How did this? Oh, y'all had this in the chamber. This
Good
is
point.
like when somebody has like an obituary that somebody's going to pass away, and the obituary is ready.
Right.
That's kind of what that looked and felt like. You know what I mean? So they were able to make that happen, right? But where do the Lakers go from here? I'm not sure. Like,
Right.
I just don't know where they go, right? And if you're LeBron, do you want to continue playing basketball? And it's wild to think about, Ken. He's been there 6 years. They missed the playoffs the first year, won a championship, bubble, whatever, COVID. They won a championship, right? Next year, out in the first round. Next year, missed the playoffs. Last year, make it to the conference finals. This year, out in the first round again, right? Like, I cannot imagine this is what LeBron James thought going to LA would be.
Yeah.
I just can't. So at this point, what are you playing for? Because his days of competing for championships, those are over. You know what I mean?
Well, I think from what I was reading, I think that they still feel like they have a window. It's just putting it all together. And again, like, I do believe that if it was seeding right, you know, maybe you could put the Clippers ahead of them, Denver ahead of them. But if you are ranking the teams in the West, I think they were like the third or fourth best team in the playoffs on the Western side. They just ran up against the one team that gave them problems. Like if they played Phoenix in the first round, I believe they beat Phoenix.
Yeah.
If they played New Orleans in the first round, I believe they beat New Orleans. I believe the Minnesota series would be very tough. But I think that they will beat them. Clippers or the Mavs, that would be a good series. But again, the one thing that they could not stop was the hub of Jokic.
No.
Like they can, like all those other teams, they got bodies they can throw. Obviously, those guys are great players. They're still going to get theirs. But they just had no answer for Jokic. And the bigger thing, they had no answer for Aaron Gordon, who was probably for the first time in maybe LeBron's life, somebody that was as big as him and at this point as athletic as him. Because the play of the game was Aaron Gordon getting that offensive rebound over LeBron when it was tied up. And then picking it back out and Jamal Murray hitting the three. And like he tried to box out. It wasn't a great box out, but he tried to box out and it just wasn't good enough. And the most athletic guy got it.
Yeah, that is true. But to a series that's still going on, that's about to start here in a couple of minutes, and hopefully the Beehive don't take me out again. Is this Clippers-Mavs series? This is going to go to at least 6. And when we came in to the playoffs, we thought this is going to be the best series of the first round, and it has lived up to it. Kyrie Irving had himself a day on Sunday, and it was one of those things where I think over the past year or so, we have people giving everything Kyrie, some of this self-inflicted, has done to damage his reputation over the past couple of years. That's a dude, when you see him with that ball in his hand, you see him get going, you're like, yeah, that's why. That's why people would put up with him, because he's that good. And he just need a couple to get going. And you're like, uh-oh, here he goes. And there he went, right? So as we're progressing through this series, Ken, who you got winning tonight, man? Game 5 in LA.
Game 5 is a pivotal game, always, especially when it's tied up 2-2. Again, I'm gonna just roll my pick. I got the Mavs in 7. So I got the Mavs winning this. But you know, the Clippers are a different team right now with and without Kawhi. And I know he probably wants to be out there, but those two guys, Luka and Kyrie, are just two of the best shot makers in the league right now. And they can do it at all 3 levels, right? And Kyrie kind of helped spearhead that comeback that they had in Dallas, but Paul George was very good. Paul George had a great game. Hit a big shot.
He was like behind the backboard.
Yeah, he had a big shot. To kind of seal the deal. But I think Dallas takes this one tonight. I think they end up taking the series. But if it does work out that way, it'll be very unfortunate for the Clippers, especially with the Kawhi situation, because he just can't keep up with. And I wouldn't be surprised, like, he might need to hang it up.
Yeah.
Like, he don't need to play Team USA this summer. I don't know why he even signed up for
that. With Kawhi, and I think this latest injury, what it seemed like happened was he really wanted to be out there. And this was the first time where, like we kind of like we talked about last week, where Kawhi has an injury, and typically they're really hush about it, don't really tell you anything, whether it's really severe or it's a hangnail, they tell you nothing. But this time they were like, oh, his knee is just swollen. He's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. He's going to play the whole deal, right? But when you saw him out there, the first game, you're like, all right, he doesn't have his rhythm. His shot's a little flat, coming in a little short. You're like, all right, he hadn't played like full contact in 3 weeks. That, you need your rhythm. You need your wind, right? But when I saw him game 3 and he was really tentative, didn't take a three-pointer, was turning the ball over, it's like, oh, he's not confident in what he's doing at all, right? And my thing is, if you are not confident in what you're doing and you can't be you and be Kawhi Leonard, there's no point in being a diminished version of yourself out there, right? At a certain point, you do need someone to save you from you, and it is that right leg again, right? Mm-hmm. I think this is the same right leg with the hamstring problem that happened in San Antonio. He blew the knee in 2021, had a meniscus tear last year. This is the same leg, right? So, like, at this point, you just start to feel bad for the guy because it's like he won 2 titles, won 2 finals MVPs, was one of the best 3 or 4 players on the planet. And then it's been like this Grant Hill type of thing ever since, where he's healthy, and then all of a sudden he's not. Right? Now, for the on-the-court piece of this, if the Clippers are able to make it out of this, and I think one thing that helps them that they have on their side, T. Lue, one of the best 2 or 3 coaches in the game, and it sounds really crazy, Paul George almost plays better without Kawhi Leonard. Like, there is a noticeable difference for me with Paul George, because when Kawhi's there, Paul George is a bit too deferential, if that makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. Without Kawhi there, he like, okay, I got to do this. I got to be the one to make this happen. It's got to be me, right? And what helps them is, well, you can say it helps them and it hurts them depending on which James Harden decides to show up. But James showed up game 4 too.
Right, he's been the most consistent one throughout this whole series.
James been hooping.
Yeah, James has been hooping. But I hate to do this, but taking a page out of your book, you and I both know that games 1 through 4 and games 5 through 7 can mean 2 totally different things.
2 totally different James Hardens.
Or 2 totally different Paul Georges.
That is the thing, man. With Paul George, it is like, I feel like the biggest mistake he ever made was anointing himself playoff P. Yeah. The biggest mistake he ever made. Hey. Because had he just played poorly that series in that closeout game against Utah, had he just played poorly that game in the bubble, right? Had he just played poorly and just shut his mouth, no one would say anything, because we'd be like, yo, Indiana, this dude was the best player on the team that took the big 3 in Miami to 7. Mm-hmm. This dude is somebody, right? Mm-hmm. But people are almost begrudgingly, and I feel like you were one of them, that when Kawhi got hurt in 21, that series in Utah, when Paul George came out there and gave them boys, like, what was it, 39? Mm-hmm. You was acting like, I can't believe Paul George could actually do something like this, right? And I think it's the playoff P thing, right? I think that's part of what this is, right? But is it a bit of a weird feeling? Like, I'm glad I don't root for the Clippers like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad I could just kind of watch this and be like objective and be like, oh boy, I'm glad I don't have a dog in this fight, because I would be stressed having to depend on James Harden and Paul George.
That's all I'm saying. That last sentence is all I'm saying. all these things are true, but you cannot tell me as a fan that you are coming into a game cool, calm, and collected with James Harden and Paul George down the stretch of a playoff series. Paul George is not bad, and he will have occasional great playoff games, but he also has occasional stinkers. Like didn't he just have 9 points? Like
they put up a stinker. They were terrible on Friday night. They were bad.
Right. Like, he put up 39 against Utah, and then he had a stinker against Phoenix. He in the Western Conference Final. I can't remember what he finished with, but he had a stinker against Phoenix, and he missed 2 free throws down the stretch of the game.
That's fair. That's
the one that DeAndre Ayton hit that game winner.
He did. Yeah.
Like, he's a good player. I just don't know if I can depend on him to be my guy.
And that is why it's so. But that's why with the Clippers, and that game just started as 4-0 Dallas with a minute off the clock. Why the Clippers are such a fascinating team to me is because everybody, it seems like, plays better without Kawhi. You heard that too, huh?
I've been seeing the flash.
Man, it feels like the Undertaker is behind. You know how when the Undertaker used
just standing right behind you, right behind that Marvin Gaye picture.
Right. Bro, Taker used to do random stuff. Look, I'm scared. Look, my computer might start levitating or something, the way everything's going on outside. All right.
Yeah.
Oh man. But look here. I think it's weird the way the Clippers play a little bit better, like as a full collective without Kawhi Leonard, right? Mm-hmm. You get a better Terrence Mann, a better Russell Westbrook. And shout out to Russell Westbrook too. Really, I think earlier in the year we talked about these R&B groups and who gonna be deep voice dude.
Mm-hmm.
That's Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook is like, I'll do all the fills.
For sure.
Give me. I'll be the bottom of the record. I'm cool with that. And I'm just interested to see. I hope this one goes 7. I do.
I do too.
Let's move to some fan questions and fan comments. My homie Matt says, I don't know if you can see this on the screen, Ken. He said, I'm banking on good old James Harden to let me down.
Man, I think they're gonna lose. I hope James Harden doesn't have a stinker though. I hope not. But I can see it coming. I can see one or if not both of them having a stinker. Paul George or James Harden.
So we got another fan question. Who you got? New York or Philadelphia? I'm rolling with the Knicks, man.
I have to. Now that is somebody I feel sorry for. All these knee injuries that Joel Embiid has gotten since he's came in the league, and now you mean to tell me the man has Bell's palsy too?
Wait. Bell's palsy. That's like
he can't like.
Doesn't Jim Ross have Bell's palsy? Doesn't Jim Ross have Bell's palsy?
Maybe, but like the left side of his face is not coherent. Like watch him at the free throw line; those eyes aren't blinking the same right now. Like the man can't catch a break.
All I will speak to is his knee injuries because look, I don't know who him and Kawhi Leonard's doctor is. They need to be sued because they're not doing a good job.
Ridiculous.
And both of them. Man, I'm just thinking about that. Look, New York, in the way New York is hooping, man. You couldn't have told me when Jalen Brunson was at Villanova he would ever be this. You couldn't have told me 2 years ago. Yeah, you couldn't have told me 2 years ago he was going to be out here putting up 47, 44-point play in the playoffs. You couldn't have told me this. And this, I must say, this might be the best Knicks team I've seen in my lifetime.
Didn't we talk about like how bad of a signing? I feel like if we were to go back and listen to our show, we would talk like we got on the Knicks about how bad it was to give Jalen Brunson that much money. And like how it was very Knicks-like of them.
Yeah, I think we did. But clearly, Jalen Brunson knew something we didn't because like the way he's developed, the only guys I've seen develop from like rotation player starter type to being this level of good that I can really think of is Kawhi Leonard or Shea.
Yeah.
Like those are my reference points, right? And I don't know how much this helped him, Ken. Maybe you could speak more to this, but do you think playing 3 or 4 years of college helped him?
I think the background that his dad had, I think him not being super athletic, and maybe those years of college under a really good coach, he just knows how to play the game the right way. He's not able to jump out the gym, right? But he can use both hands. He plays off 2 feet. He's always under control. Knows how to work angles, floaters. Got a post up game, 3-level score. Like he can just do it all, and he's better without that bull in the china shop in there.
You hate Julius Randle so much,
Man. Like I used to like watching him when he was in high school and like at Kentucky, but he got it. Like New York got to get off him. Like they got a squad, man. Like they just got to get like one more guy. Like if they can get like a Levine or maybe like another guy on the perimeter that can handle the ball, that can score, like they gonna be cooking.
Man, that's a team and that's a fan base you feel good for, right? Because like they have suffered through so much and so much just mediocrity. You know what I'm saying? And like this is the time of the year where it's like, yo, it really means something to go like the setting of where the game is, right? It
Yeah.
means something like the audience. This is a TV show. So like the audience in the setting in the atmosphere means something. Like
Yep.
that's one of them atmospheres you talk about. And to get Madison Square Garden, and those folks are loud and active. Them folks travel. They got on that train and rode an hour, 15 minutes to Philly.
And like I don't even think we've really fully experienced it yet because they're supporting their team. They love their team, and their team is a good team. But like we ain't seen like a Knicks team that's like they should win the championship this year. Like
We
when we see that team, like those fans and that environment will be nuts. Like when this team is one of the favorites to win, one of the odds favorites to win the championship.
Yeah, that I think is gonna be crazy. That would be wild, wild, wild. I got one more question for you, Ken, before we roll on up out of here. So you said you hate Julius Randle, right?
I do.
So
His game.
you hate his game, right? So I'm gonna ask you this question before we roll up out of here. Who do you think hates who more? Do you think do you think Kendrick Lamar hates Drake more, or do you think you hate Solomon Hill more? Because Kendrick Lamar on that diss record, you heard it, right? You heard Euphoria, right?
Heard.
Man, he got on there and like I feel like he channeled Timmy Turner's dad when he was talking about Dinkelberg. You know what I'm talking about? But he was like, I hate the way that you walk, the way that you talk, the way that you dress. He got on there for 6 minutes and it basically said, here's why everything you do makes me itch. Oh my God. And I was like, he just sees you and just ugh. Like he just gets the stomach virus face. But your disdain for Solomon Hill should be studied.
Are we live?
Yes, we're live, Ken.
So we don't have a bleep button.
We do not. I do not have a bleep button at my disposal, Ken. I don't.
Solomon Hill is the bitch nigga who ruined our championship window.
Jesus.
We talked about like all these years that you talked about, right? That didn't work out. We were on our way to going back to back until Solomon Hill showed up mid-January, late January. And LeBron has never looked the same after that. Never fully looked the same after that. We were a top 4 team in the West, Alexander Goodwin. We had the best defense in the league. We still had Alex Caruso. We still had KCP. We had just picked up Drummond, had Montrezl Harrell. We were okay. There's no way we would have played Phoenix in the first round. I can't say that Anthony Davis's groin wouldn't have torn off the bone I don't know because it happened during the series, but we wouldn't have had to be in the play-in, and we wouldn't have had to play Phoenix in the first round. And I think we would have won the championship again that year because I think we were better than Phoenix, and I think it would have been a very good series with us in Milwaukee. And in saying that, we probably wouldn't have made the trade for Russell Westbrook and overreacted.
So what you're saying is all of this is a
stems back to Solomon Hill.
Calm, breathe. You're gonna make me do a little bit of work in post now.
Now, I'm sorry, but this is a sober me. If this had been on another night, Alexander Goodwin, it would have been a whole bunch of different words for Solomon Hill.
I'm pretty sure if we were not live,
that man needs to be banned from the league for what he did.
You gonna send him over there to Alcatraz with Jonte Porter? Send him over there to Indonesia?
Go play with Dwight Howard in Taiwan, for all I care.
Hey, you know what song is playing in what's playing in Jonte Porter's head all day long?
What?
Do you have your passport? Did you get your shots?
Girl, won't you come back with to America?
Bro, did you see the ridiculous look on this? He was like, how are you gonna get all the way from Ethiopia to America? He's like,
But the face that kills me is like, this is like, you knew this was off the cuff.
Yes.
Like when he said it, like when he said to America, he like looked like, oh, this is gold. America. I gotta sing it one more time. Do you have your passport?
Bro, when he really like that third time when he really like brought it up.
To America.
Yes. And if you don't know what we're talking about, just Google it.
Yep.
Just Google it. And that is another episode of the Game Plan Podcast. Kennedy Miller, my guy.
It's always a pleasure, my man.
Where can the folks find you on Twitter, Instagram, all that, dog?
You can find me on Twitter at _Kennedy Miller _. Again, that's _Kennedy Miller _. That's Kennedy with a Y and not an I.
All right. You can find me on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. That's on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. That is T as in Timberwolves, S as in Solomon Hill, M as in Minnesota. Follow the show on Instagram at _ the Game Plan Podcast. Again, follow the show on Instagram at _ the Game Plan Podcast. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our official Game Plan Podcast YouTube channel. So right wherever you are, on your phone, on your tablet, on your computer, just hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for us, and tell 10 friends to tell 10 more friends to tell 10 more friends about the Game Plan Podcast. Wherever you're listening and watching, and however you are listening and watching, we thank you guys so much for listening and for watching. For Kennedy Miller, my name is Alex Goodwin. This has been the Game Plan Podcast. We will see you guys next time. Take it easy.